What happened?
Yeah, what was that?
My computer died. I plugged it into the wall back here, and it died. And so I walked up, I'm like, that's not right. And I went to unplug it, plug it back in, and the outlet came out with the plug. So I would say it doesn't work. I love like the first 4 seconds when it's just like humming noise, like
Yeah.
listing everybody's levels.
I think that's my computer more than anything. It sounds like an airplane.
Yeah. Hi. So, how are we gonna introduce this shit?
Well, should we introduce what we do, right? Or like what this is, and then what we do?
Well, it's the Ink Pit.
Right.
If anybody's listening, they might know that. So
it's a podcast about webcomics.
And comics.
And comics, right.
And
Good point.
zines. And zines. The kids like zines now. I made a zine once.
I don't even like the term webcomic. I think it's offensive.
Everybody does. So, what we can be like is, hey guys, welcome to the Ink Pit. You gonna say something, Rachel?
No. No. Hello.
Well, hello, Mike King and Rachel Dukes.
Hey.
Hey, Dave Mercier.
Thank you. Yes, hello.
I'm very glad I got that right.
Did you not know my last name?
So, reading emails, we all know exactly how good I am at pronouncing names.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah. Oh. All right.
So, what are we going to be talking about today, Mike?
Comics.
Perfect.
We should restart this.
Okay, great. We're doing great work, though. Really, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. All right. So let me think about how to start this.
You want to do a hard open? Are you going to do a hard open?
We should do a hard open. I think that'd be a good idea.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut for it.
So I did a hard open last night.
Uh,
I don't know what that is.
I can't stop myself.
Right. So what we should do is a very slight hard open where I'm like, hey, welcome to the Ink Pit. And then
And then who we are?
yeah.
I'm Dave Mercier. Hello.
Hey, wait, so this is infinitely more difficult than it seems on paper.
It's fine. We're going to be fine. We just need to be comfortable. We're having a conversation.
Dude, I am on a couch in the back of a tattoo shop, not wearing socks, wearing Converses. It's freezing.
That sounds really cool.
In my life. So.
So let's just relax. Have a great conversation about comics.
Yeah, I'm relaxed. So how do we want to open this? How do we want to spit up?
all you have to do is say, hey, this is the Ink Pit. We're a podcast of 3 cartoonists talking about comics and zines. Like,
Yeah.
you just explain what it is.
Well, I think we just did it.
Yeah. Hey, this is the Ink Pit with Mike King, Rachel Dukes, and Dave Mercier. Welcome to a podcast about comics.
Mostly.
We're sponsored by MailChimp.
And zines.
For sure.
This episode brought to you by Squarespace.
I don't want to be brought to anybody by Squarespace.
That's not true. It's not brought to you by Squarespace. Fuck Squarespace. Alright, so what are we talking about today, Mike?
Emails that we got, that we asked for, and then people sent.
Mm-hmm.
So, but first, we should talk about who we are. I am Mike King. I draw a comic called Please Keep Warm that I've been drawing for all of 10 days that I started at the beginning of this year. But before this, I drew a comic called Lion's Teeth that I liked 10 books for. It was okay. And you can check out my stuff at pleasekeepwarm.com. And what do you do, Dave?
I do a comic called Merkworks, which I've been doing for 3.5 years. I've got 1 book and another on the way. And you can see it at merkworks.net. Rachel, what are you doing?
I'm doing a lot of things, but it's, my name is Rachel Dukes, and I'm a freelance cartoonist living and working out of Los Angeles. I post journal comics and cat comics online sporadically and have been doing that for the last decade. My current project is called Frankie Comics. You can read all the comics about Frankie online at frankiecomics.com. Cat Comics.
You also did a Garfield.
Yeah, I did do a Garfield.
Did you have that written out? That was really good.
No.
I'm very impressed.
So, working for Garfield is, like, my dream.
It is the high irony and and also really sincere feather in my cap.
Yeah. So,
how much creative liberty did you have on that? Could you do like a dark Garfield?
No, I didn't write the story myself. I couldn't really take any liberties, to be honest. The liberty that I got was drawing it in my own style, which was wonderful, but I couldn't deviate off script or anything. I actually, so when I draw my cat comics, my cat has an anus. So in the Garfield comic, I drew all the cats with anuses, and that was the one note that I got back from Paws, which is the Garfield head corporation. Jim Davis emailed and was like, "Can we remove that cat sphincter?" That was the one note that I got, was that Garfield's not allowed to have an anus.
He eats a lot of pasta to not be able to shit it all out.
I mean, there is no fiber in his diet.
That's a good. All right, yeah.
He's just got like, he has an ever-densening lump of coal in his stomach. But, well, we asked for emails because people might want to know something, and we got some emails, and I can read one if you want.
I would love that.
So, well, we got an email from a Kiana Brown at live.ca. Is that Canada?
I don't think it is Canada. I don't know if you should be reading people's emails, though.
Yeah.
I'll play like metal music over it. So
yeah, we're going to edit that out. But a .ca is definitely Canadian.
Yeah.
Well, we got an email from Kiana Brown in Canada that says, "Hey, I have a question for you guys." Smiley face. "I would absolutely love to hear you guys describe each other's comics in 3 words, and also your absolutely most loathed medium to work in." And we can answer that question.
Who's starting?
So, I will start that shit up. So, all I'm going to say is Rachel's comics, I'm going to describe them as cats and relationships. Is that fair?
Yeah.
That sounds worse than it is.
Yeah.
But I like them. You want me to redo that?
No, that's fine. I do think that using those descriptors is not an accurate representation of my work, but I haven't been able to find a better way yet.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like it sounds like I'm making a joke.
Yeah.
But I love it. But
the descriptors are accurate, but not wholly encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, if you like that, you wait for Dave's, which is 3 words drawn on computers.
Come on! That doesn't seem fair.
You make beautiful work.
Thank you.
So,
that's
and
4 words, but thank you.
My least favorite medium to work in, on a computer.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
We can talk about that more later, but how about your 3-word descriptions?
Yeah, can I was going to say for you, totally rad comics, which I think is a little nicer, frankly.
Now I seem like a dick.
And Rachel, for yours, I only know of Frankie comics, so cats are fun is mine for you.
Can I change mine to Frankie is beautiful?
Oh, damn.
All cats are beautiful.
See,
cats are beautiful.
When I'm not being a snarky dick.
No. Well, actually, so my most loathed medium is traditional art. I have a really hard time with it because I second guess myself too much. So, right back at you, buddy.
Yikes. Well, I guess this has set it up for a heated discussion after Rachel answers these things.
Yeah. So first question, 3 descriptors for each other's comics. I'm going to have the worst descriptors, which are, you are funny and you are rad, which is applicable to both, but for so many different reasons, that I don't really, in our time frame, I don't think I'm going to be able to articulate. I wish that I had thought to read the emails before we sat down to record, because I could have actually come up with 3 different descriptors, not just 3 different short phrases.
I think that's
2 short
fair.
phrases of 3 words.
Mike's work is rad.
Yeah.
Like, you look at it and you're like, that's rad.
Rad is the word all around. That's our word for the day.
Yikes. Well, now that we're done patting each other back,
Rachel's got more.
Medium.
Yeah. So I sit in the middle. I'm the happy medium between you guys. I don't really have a loathed medium, period. Like, there's nothing that I'm like, oh man, I have to work in charcoal. I detest that medium. That's not the case at all. I work both digitally and traditionally. I generally do one and then the other.
I mean, when we were hanging out after Mocha, you were working and you were actually doing all of your pencils digitally and then your inks traditionally?
I flipped it.
That's
flipped
very
it for
unusual.
that project.
That was just one project that you did that way?
I've been doing it more and more recently, but it takes me a really long time because I'm working on a small Wacom tablet. And so I end up having to make a lot of little small lines to get the same stroke that I could get traditionally with one line.
In the sketch phase? Or in the inking phase, you mean?
When I'm working digitally.
Okay.
Whether I'm inking or penciling, if I'm working digitally, it takes me 4 or 5 lines to create one line that I can make with one stroke with my pencil in my sketchbook.
Why is that?
It's due to the size of my tablet. It's because my working space is only about 3x4, and that's about the size of a drawn panel on a page for me. But that 3x4 space is the whole monitor, with the tablet.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So not a large enough work area.
Yeah, which I think if I switched to a larger tablet or Cintiq or something, that it would alleviate that problem for me.
I mean, so I know I'm like all anti-digital, but it may be because at the end of Lion's Teeth, before I had a massive breakdown, I was drawing digitally on one of those big tablets, and it just destroyed me. Like just there's so many options and redos that I just fell apart. Well,
see, and that's exactly why more often than not, digital will be my second step, where what I end up doing is I'll pencil the comic by hand, and then ink it by hand, and then scan it and do my digital cleanup on it, where I'm fixing errant lines or doing digital colors and that sort of thing. I'll use it for that second step, because when I'm penciling digitally, while it helps me do things like get accurate perspective and draw really nice buildings, which I can't do as easily in my sketchbook, I will spend all day hitting the undo button and trying to get that perfect line.
Yeah.
So that's why I try and use it as my secondary step and not do my pencils digitally. But when I'm traveling, or if I'm doing something that's really detail oriented, for instance, the story I was working on when I saw Mike was the Beyond Anthology story. And it was all like spaceships and gears and like crazy stuff going on in the background that I couldn't do by hand. In general, just I'm not a skilled draftsman in that way. And B, I was traveling, so I couldn't even bring all of my gear with me to do it, even if I was better at drawing it.
Yeah,
that is one nice thing about digital, is that you've got everything. If you work exclusively digitally, you've got everything you need to create with you. If you've got a laptop and an Intuos, then you can do it pretty much anywhere.
I mean, like I walk around the shop drawing my comics on a little clipboard all day, like where I work. So But like that's the thing is like my comics a lot less detail, like just noodly armed little dudes on skateboards and dogs farting, and like the comics that I'm doing now, the Keep Warm things, take me about 2 hours to draw. I was doing an equal level of stuff digitally, and it was taking me 8 hours.
Exactly.
Like it was absurd. Like if you look at that stuff, it should not have taken me 8 hours.
I have the same problem oftentimes, and one thing that I've been trying to work on is not letting myself use the undo button. Just accepting the line for what it is, imagining it as if I were drawing on a piece of paper. Like you don't get it back, you know, unless you really mess something up. Stick with what you did.
So, do you find that like when you're putting lines down that have you found yourself like spending a lot of time like looking for brushes and stuff, since that's how you mostly work?
No, I use Manga Studio for line work and for sketching, and not Photoshop.
Yeah.
Photoshop is awesome for different brushes for like the coloring phase and adding all that post-processing detail and stuff, you know. But for the nitty-gritty, like, it's all the same. You do a sketch layer and then you do an ink layer.
See, that's the thing is like when I was using Manga Studio, I spent so much time like flipping through those like friend-in brushes that everybody likes.
Were you using Manga Studio 5 or 4?
I was using the newer one.
Okay. I actually could not get into it because it was weird for me. All the different brushes, actually, I had a hard time with. But
yeah. This thing is like, I would spend hours and hours and hours, and like the best brush for me when I'm, God forbid, drawing digitally is the straight up pencil tool in Photoshop, because like you have complete control.
That's essentially what the inking tool in Manga Studio 4 is. It actually doesn't even alias the lines. It's pixels, you know, straight hard pixels. And you can use vector layers, which are awesome because if you ever need to scale something up, you can scale it up or down infinitely. It's really nice for that.
That's one of those things that I feel like people who try to work digitally for the first time spend so much time messing with, is like these brushes. And like you're never going to get a brush digital that looks like a real brush without like knowing a lot. Like, and people need to just hit the ground and run with that shit if they're going to do it.
When you're inking, what do you use?
Right now?
Just generally, yeah, right now.
Right now I'm using actually Papermate medium flare tip pens, just because like they're super cheap and they're everywhere, and they're actually really nice. The Brian Lee O'Malley was using them to letter seconds, and I heard that in an interview and picked them up, and they are beautiful. But actually, I prefer to use like G-nib dip pens and brushes. But I'm just trying to get as much done and not think about it right now. So those pens are actually amazing.
Well, that's another thing I like about digital is like I have my process. I don't have to worry about like a pen running out of ink or anything like that. Like it's just ready to go all the time.
Yeah, no, I ordered, they come in 12-pack boxes. I ordered 12 boxes.
Oh, shit.
Like, I'm so terrified of running out of things.
You also have major output, though, right? Like, you're updating every day, 5 days a week or 7 days a week?
I'm doing 7 days a week right now, but I mean, when I'm also working on other projects I'm not talking about, but like when I'm working full gear, like I put out like 1,000 pages of Lion Teeth in like a year and a half, and like some of it was drawn before that, but it was stupid amount of work. But like it's also simple, and
that's insane to me.
Skateboards and dogs farting.
It takes me so long to make a page. I'm ashamed of how long it takes me.
Might be because you're working digital.
It honestly might be. But I've been working on it and pushing myself. A few digital artists that I know can just lap me. Like they can do what takes me 3 hours in an hour and a half and not even sweat. And I'm like going full speed. So I don't necessarily think that it's digital that's causing it, but lack of experience.
I was going to say there could also be a learning curve where like, are you using shortcut keys? Do you have actions set up? Like that sort of stuff saves a lot of time. That if you're doing the same thing manually over and over and over again, you know, that's a waste of, you know, a minute of your time.
Yeah.
You know,
that is one thing that I've been emphasizing lately, and just again, not worrying so much about, is this the perfect line? Because it's kind of your imperfections that make your style distinct in a way, in some ways.
See, one of the reasons that generally I talk so much shit on digital and I like your stuff because it has a very organic and natural feel to it, but it doesn't try to pretend it's not digital. Do you know what I mean?
How do you mean?
Well, like, a lot of the times when people are doing digital comics, they attempt to disguise the fact that it's drawn on a computer by like using brushes that have like rough edges and like sort of like a feathered thing to it and like or like texture in the ink line. And like I feel like you seem to have like gone like, yeah, this is my tool, this is what I'm using, and just like done it.
I do feel that way.
Huh?
I do feel that way. I don't know if that's an intentional decision, but
did you start drawing comics digitally?
Yeah. Actually, what happened for me was I had always called myself an artist, and then I woke up one day and realized I was full of shit because I did not make art, and so I ordered a Wacom tablet, I guess it's pronounced.
I will never say Wacom.
It's so stupid. So anyway, it's actually the same tablet that I used today that was like 4 years ago, and I haven't stopped since. So it was sort of like I had such low self-esteem for my art that I had to work digital because I kind of had to undo stuff and feel like I was making something that was worth my time. Yeah. So it was good for getting over those hurdles for me.
I mean, if I'm going to be completely honest, I started drawing comics digitally that nobody will ever see. But like I did a book called Crack Dracula, and then I did a few issues of something called King Cobra, completely in Manga Studio. Actually, I did Crack Dracula in Flash.
Oh, wow. But that's not great.
It was not great. But I mean, like, those were my first books, and like, yeah, it was not great.
But I mean, Flash in general is just not a great medium for it. But like, yeah, you're proud of that work, or that got you over those hurdles, or?
I'm proud of the fact that I stopped sitting on my ass all day.
Yeah,
it's not great though. Go ahead.
It's a good segue into that other email about creating your first books.
We can read it.
That's a great point, actually. Can I do it? Should I do it?
Can I thank Kiana Brown first for that well-written and amazing email?
Yeah, that was a really good email.
Short and to the point. And if anybody else wants to email us, heyinkpit@gmail.com, and we might answer your question. Or we might just go on an elaborate thing about your question that has nothing to do with it.
It's a really good plug.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
I nailed it.
You nailed it. So from Tyrone Strouder, I think it's pronounced Tyrone.
It's Tyrone, I think.
Tyrone Strouder. He asks, what advice would you give to artists that want to put out their first comic book? And what did you do when putting out your first?
We could kind of all do the what did you do thing, but I'm going to say up front, the number one piece of advice before I forget it, figure out what size you're printing at and make sure you're drawing it proportionately to the right size.
Jesus, that's true. That is so true.
Like, I love, like, a lot of people's first books, but, like, just, like, the margins and, like, the different size drawings, and it's crazy.
My first book is a nightmare for exactly that reason.
Volume 1, yeah, tons of gutter space on some of those pages.
And not enough on others. It's just, like, all over the place.
Yeah. I'm actually dealing with that because I'm trying to put all of Lion's Teeth into one big 800-page book, and I drew it at all different sizes, and there's just things that are just nonsense.
I mean, that's also, the issue with publishing digital, like publishing as a webcomic or on Tumblr first, is, you have that freedom to do things at different sizes, and you're not necessarily thinking about the ultimate final collection. Mm-hmm. There was a book that came out last year. It was Liz Prince's new book, not Tomboy, but the other one, the Singles Collections, which I think came out from Top Shelf, Fantagraphics, one of them. And you can tell that it was a collection of work that was all drawn in different sizes.
Yeah.
And it didn't suffer for it because it's still Liz's style, but you could tell that certain strips or pages had been scaled up and, that weren't uniform with the rest of the book because it had all been put online first. Or not all of it.
It really is a different medium.
Posted.
Well, yeah. We could all go around Circular Robin, Red Robin, I don't know what that's called, but we can all describe our first book thing. Round robin?
Rachel, what was your first book?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to talk about one of them. I used to do webcomic. It was called Fanfare. It was a journal comic. It was all over the place because it was really just me like emotionally word vomiting into the internet, but as a comic. It's like instead of having diary entries, I was just drawing comics about my life and throwing them on the internet regardless of content. And I eventually did a collection of it, but I think that it wasn't technically my first publication, even though it was the first thing I had ever done. I think I printed later journal comics first. Because what happened was I was doing Fanfare when I was in high school. And I was probably from 16 to 17, 18 maybe when I did those for 2 or 3 years. And then I let it sit as a webcomic for years and years while I was doing other journal comics under a different title, which is actually still, my journal comic is called Intentionally Left Blank. And I was doing these journal comics under Intentionally Left Blank from 2007 to now. And I started publishing the collections of that first. I did 2 or 3 printed collections, of those first, and then later did a collection of Fanfare. But the collection of Fanfare suffers from the same problems we were just discussing because I wasn't thinking about format when I was creating it as a webcomic.
Sure.
I was just drawing things and putting them on the internet, whereas doing the Intentionally Left Blank collections, I was thinking about format because it had been a couple of years. So those collections came out first, but look better than this other collection whose work had been created prior.
So when did that come out?
Fanfare, I think 2008, 2009 was when I finally printed it.
Nice.
Yeah, when it had been drawn, in like 2001-ish.
How many books would you say you've got total? Like, how many have you published or through a publisher or whatever?
Books?
Yeah.
Like how many books has my work been included in? Like not just my own self-published, but...
Like how many have you self-published or otherwise? Because you did like a Garfield, like...
I've self-published probably somewhere between 10 and 20 books. That includes the anthologies. We did 2 anthologies called Side A and Side B that came out in 2007 and 2009. And those were larger books. Those were 123 and 232 pages, respectively, both offset printed. But then I've also done several mini comic collections, which I did 3 issues of Intentionally Left Blank, and I've done 3 issues of Frankie Comics. There was Fanfare. I've done a lot of other mini comics. I put out probably 5 other things during the 2 years I was at CCS, the Center for Cartoon Studies. But then I've also done, work for Garfield and Adventure Time, and I'm working on my first graphic novel. So I'm in other people's anthologies and fanzines. I was in several of the Young American Comics anthologies, which were also happening in the early aughts. Which is now defunct, but I still love them.
Can we never say aughts ever again?
Sorry.
I actually like the early aughts. I think that's a nice way to say it. Because when you guys at the 2000s, I don't know. It doesn't have the flair of the 90s or the 80s.
We will always be in the 2000s for the rest of our lifetime, so I think saying the early aughts is a quicker...
Yeah, and now we're in the 10s, right?
I am completely leaving that up to science.
The scientists in charge?
I mean, we might make it.
All right.
But to cut together a shorter answer, my work has been included in probably somewhere close to 40 or 50 books, most of which were published by other people. But probably 10 to 15 of those were self-published.
So you're like famous, right?
I will refer everybody to, Spike's, what is it? I'm gonna have to look this up now. We're gonna have to cut this back together later. Iron Spike's comic about, becoming a cartoonist and how it takes 10 years for someone to go, oh, you're so-and-so. I think I've heard of your work. That's fame in our industry.
If it exists at all.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the chance of a movie.
Frankie Comics, the movie.
So
Yeah.
what was your first book, Dave? Is it that book I got of yours?
Yeah, it's called Mercworks Volume 1, The Joy of Despair, which I think is the most brilliant title ever conceived. No offense to anyone else with different titles. And I had no idea what I was doing. It could have been a lot better, but when I started the comic, it was meant for the web, and just the process of putting something to print when you work digitally exclusively, especially for years and years, it's a completely different medium, so you're converting it over, and if you don't do it the right way, it looks terrible. So again, that advice that you said straight off the bat, know what format it's going to be. Even if you don't plan to print it now, you probably will eventually, and it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah. Make sure your scans are high res, but yeah, I mean, even you can pull together some like different size things. Like I still think your book's a beautiful piece.
Thank you.
If you will.
It's got a lot of good content, and I feel good about that aspect of it.
I mean, I've seen some things that are a mess when they're put together, and it's like, if you weren't somebody who was setting up books, you might not notice.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm way. I mean, as all artists, we're just like so critical of our own work. So that's one where when I first got it, it was my first book, and it felt amazing, and it was like, oh god, these pages are so thick. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, these pages are so damn thick. It's killing me on shipping costs. I can't deal with this. So, you get to that point eventually where you hate your own work no matter what.
Those pages are real thick, though.
They are. They're unnaturally thick.
No, it's good.
I killed a tree and a half per book.
Yo, that should be the title of your next book, Unnaturally Thick.
The title of my next book is Death Rides Bitch.
Oh.
I don't know if that's actually what I'm going to do. I think it's funny. Whatever.
Yeah.
Fine. Everyone was sad. Everyone's always sad when I pitch that title. Never mind.
I mean, it happens. So, yeah, and I've already talked about my first book, which was Crack Dracula, which I made without much knowledge of comics or how comics worked.
You were working digitally at the time?
Yeah. Basically, I just Googled how to draw comics and found some stuff, and somebody was talking about how they were drawn in Flash, and like I was just like, okay, I got a Wacom tablet, let's do this shit. And it's like a little 42-page book that I drew everything at the same size. Because I like looked up, like, this is a big thing. Before you do something, look it up. Like, no matter what you want to do in the world, somebody's done it and they'll tell you how to do it.
Let me just say, 42 pages is immense to me.
Oh, I mean, it was immense to me then, but I didn't know any better. Like, that's the thing is, for the longest time, I just assumed people worked at a different pace than is real. So, like, I was putting out, like, a 42-page comic or zine every month or every other month for a while just because I thought that's what you did.
That's
insane. Like, I just didn't know better. It was, in hindsight, I cannot replicate the speeds I was drawing in at that time. I think it's like one of those things with, like, runners where they're like, you just have to believe you can run that fast.
Is that a real thing?
No, like, yeah, it's a thing. Like, there's a thing where anytime, like, a record in, like, running or jumping gets broken, everyone else can all of a sudden hit it because it's possible.
Okay.
Like, and I think that's what it was I just thought the magic was possible, and then I, like, came to reality, and now it's gone.
Working on this 30-page thing, and it's taken me months. It's, like, absurd and unfair.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention that I'm working on a 160-page book.
Yeah, you're insane.
And I've been freaking myself out for the last 2 weeks over productivity. I'm going, I can hit 4 pages a day of Frankie. Why can't I hit 4 pages a day of this? And I was really psyching myself out. And then this morning I woke up, I was like, you know what? That's only 16 sections of 10. I can do 10 pages. I'll just do 16 sections of 10. I can totally make this book. So maybe some of it is just mentality.
Sure.
Well, like, I'm really convinced it is, because, like, if you can compartmentalize things into the, like, and the problem is it's different for everybody, but if you can get it into, like, the right set of lists, like, you can do pretty much anything.
Lists make everything easier.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like it's just all about how your brain's going. Like some days, like for like after I crashed on Lion Steve, like it was like 6 months before I could do a page a day. But like before that, I was doing like 10 some days. It was outrageous. But, like it's all about mindset.
I actually second guess myself in my writing the same way that I second guess myself in drawing. That Control Z is very, very easy to do when you're writing, and my standards are absurdly high or weird. Like, they have to meet these certain criteria that I don't even know how to define. And so I'll write a page and I'll be like, yeah, that's great. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, yeah, but what about this panel, this panel, this panel? And just like, so I'll need to rewrite the whole thing just so it's like a tiny bit funnier. Like, not worth it.
See, I don't have that problem. My problem is, like, I'll wake up some days and I will just check my Twitter all day, which is why when I sit down to draw now, my computer and my phone go in my car, like outside.
That's one nice thing about working traditionally.
Yeah, that's the thing is that's a big beef I have with digital is I can't do it. I will check my Tumblr, I'll check my Twitter, I'll check my Facebook, and then by that point, hey, I bet somebody has done something on my Tumblr.
I bet I've got a new like somewhere.
No, I've gotten to the point in my life where I have spent at least 4 hours just looping.
I've done that.
It definitely happens.
Yeah.
It's a new workplace hazard.
It's because, like, if somebody really, like, if your comic is doing really well on a particular day, it feels goddamn excellent. It is instant verification. Like, you're validated every time you get a like on this thing, and you're getting hundreds or thousands or millions of views, and it's, like, the most amazing feeling. Even if you're, like, a codgy old bastard, and you're like, they don't mean anything, it still makes you feel... just validated. Just so good.
Well, so where are we in answering this question? Because
I've been
enjoying myself too much.
We were figuring out about the first comic book. We got a little off track.
Were they asking for advice on printing their own book?
Well, there's a second part of the question.
We're going to talk about runs, like print runs.
What did you do when putting out your first?
Me?
Whoever, yeah.
Well, I printed way too many. I still have cracked Draculas laying around.
How many did you print?
And, like, it was unnecessary. Well, just because it's so much cheaper the more you print, and I looked at that number, and, like, it was like, oh, well, because I didn't have any good idea of, like, how sales actually work. And I was like, well, if I print 50, they're, like, $4 each. And if I print 5,000, I didn't print 5,000. They're like 2 cents each. And like the thing is, my mind just kept scaling up and seeing like the profit margins getting larger, sort of. And like, actually, I saw the cost per unit going down, and I should have gone with like 10.
How many did you get?
I've given a lot away in my life, and I've still got a box of about maybe 400 or 500.
Sure.
Yeah, it's absurd. Well, I found a really absurdly good deal with a printer, and ended up getting them at about like maybe 60 cents a unit after assembling them myself. It was absurd.
You assembled them yourself?
Yeah, folded and stapled all of them.
Okay, that's crazy. That's insane.
No,
if you're going to pay somebody to print your book, pay them to assemble it.
Yeah.
Well, at like 60 cents a unit, you have to assemble it yourself.
No, you don't.
Oh my god. That's just it. Your time is worth more than that.
Have you gotten stapled things at under 60 cents a unit?
Uh-huh.
I have not come close.
Tell me about that.
I have a corporate account with...
Oh, never mind.
Okay.
That's not accessible.
That's for a print run of 1,000 or over.
Okay.
Like 1,100. They'll fold and face trim and the whole shebang.
How many did you do of Mercworks?
I got 1,000. Yeah. Actually, I got 1,100 because there were 100 hardcovers. But I was fortunate in that I did a Kickstarter and that paid for the whole thing. So I have like 500 left, but it's been just a little over a year. So I don't know. Despite the fact that I kind of hate it now, it's still nice to have.
We printed 1,100 side A's in 2007, and I have something like 30 of them left. And
That's
they're just
fantastic.
yeah, and it's fantastic that most of all of them have sold. But it's a funny thing now to go to conventions with this last handful of books and be like, you'll recognize all the artists in this book, but this was 7 years ago. Everyone was babies. Here, have this artifact that isn't necessarily an accurate representation of what all of these artists are capable of today.
That is very cool.
I would definitely, like, the size run is obviously different for everybody. I would definitely encourage people to go low, or even, like, with Create Space, like, you can print 2 and it's like $2 each if it's black and white, and then it's perfect bound and you can do it any size. Like, I would encourage people to go pretty low. I mean, I think you can guess pretty easily once you've done a few things how many people will actually realistically buy something if you're being honest with yourself. But I would tell people to shoot real low.
Even with a pretty decent fan base, like I've sold half of those, and probably 250 of them were for the Kickstarter.
You can never unprint a book. You can never unprint a book.
Right.
Yeah.
So
your profit margin isn't worth anything if you can't sell them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, even with Frankie Comics, which has like a decent following on Tumblr, the first run of each of the books, I only printed 50 of them, and I was printing them myself at home and assembling them all by hand just to see if they would sell. And it wasn't until I started going to conventions where I could really gauge, those sales, that I decided to invest in the large print run.
Yeah.
And that's even knowing that I could sell it, like even knowing that the audience was there. It's still better to print less, for that first go.
So you're feeling out the market.
Yeah.
Which is a really good way to go.
And that's much safer. Like, even if your cost per piece is slightly higher to print fewer copies, in that initial run, like, take the hit so you're not sitting on $500,
Like, you can just do a perfect bound Create Space book, and their print on demand quality is so good. Like, lots of people are now just doing that. Like, I had no idea the Maple Key anthologies were actually through that, and those look beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, so, yeah.
Do we have a couple more questions, or what are we looking at?
I mean, we got some more, but yeah, to sum that up, like, don't print too many.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure to, like, just research a little bit, like, figure out what size you want that shit to be. And how do we feel about cursing? Because I have been cursing.
I've been cursing.
I'm okay with cursing.
I think I dropped at least one F-bomb.
I was thinking before we started recording that my description for your comics would be something like rad motherfuckers. So I'm okay with cursing.
All right. I would have liked rad motherfuckers.
I'd forgotten about it by the time we recorded. But,
Pretty good.
Well, we've been recording for like 40 minutes or something. You want to do another email?
Yeah.
I'm down.
Let's do another email.
All right. Well, we have one from... actually, Rachel, you want to read this one?
I cannot. I can't bring Gmail up.
Okay. It's from... How do you pronounce this name? I'll cut this out.
Javier.
Okay, so we have an email from Javier Rivera that says, "Hey guys, my name is Javier Rivera. I'm from Coldenham, New York. His Instagram name is..."
Let's pimp his Instagram.
What?
What is it? What is his Instagram?
His Instagram is not_the_best. And it says, "Mike follows me, and I do follow this guy. And good job in putting your Instagram name in there. If anybody listens to this, all these other people fucked up."
Can I ask you something, Mike?
Yeah?
Is he the best?
I mean, he's not, but no, he's pretty good, actually. I like his drawings. He does some tattooing stuff.
Okay, that's cool.
I recently started following him. He's got a pretty nice look to his stuff. But when I finished reading this, it says, "I followed Mike King on Instagram for some time, around 2 years now. I've always," this is nice to me, "always enjoyed his line work and puns. I've also just recently seen he tagged Rachel Dukes on his Instagram, and I really feel like you guys bring back the fun to the hustle of artwork and networking.
Wow.
I've been apprenticing to learn how to tattoo for a year now. I'm just about wrapping things up with style and flash, etc. and I would like to ask you guys how much effort you feel you need to put into making artwork in comics rather than other forms of illustrating. Thank you for the opportunity to ask this. I really enjoy the hustle in all things Mike releases besides comics, like shirts and patches. Please keep making and take all my monies. Well, Javier, I would love to take all your monies. Also, Instagram, _duh_best. This guy draws some beautiful, like, cat heads. It's nice if tattooing's a thing.
So what does he mean?
I think he's like asking specifically like how much more difficult cartooning is compared to other things, which I think is kind of like compared to just like basic illustrating, because there's a lot more elements at play.
Yeah, like the page layouts, balance, pacing, etc.
Yeah, like typography, just like all these things to consider. And like I would say like with tattooing, it's kind of an interesting perspective to come from, just because the technical side of that is so crazy, like, and difficult, that like he's kind of, it's another thing that's just kind of difficult. But like, yeah, there's a lot to balance, like compared to just illustration. Like, but I'm certainly more comfortable with comics than illustrating because of these parameters and ideas.
I actually feel comfortable illustrating because I feel comfortable in comics.
Yeah, like, I can't just do a loose illustration, but with all of the stuff that comics entails, like the balloons and the panels and the layouts, like, I feel more focused. Rachel's looking at the camera like she's...
It's faster for me to pull together a single illustration than it is for me to pull together a page of comics, only because it is one thing versus, you know, to me, like, when I look at the page, the panel layout for the page is a thing. Yeah. And then the composition within each of those panels is also a thing. And making sure that the eye is led correctly through the panels, through that layout, is a thing. So there's just so much more to it.
There's so many factors. Like, even the shape of a panel
exactly
will affect how fast or slow you read that panel. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's that sort of thing where it's the same process as creating a single illustration, but it takes me significantly longer because I'm repeating that process over and over and over again to create the page. So I think that's the main difference. It's kind of the same thing. It just takes longer. See, for a comic.
For me, it takes a little longer, but I feel it takes less effort for me to make a comic that's worth looking at than an illustration that's worth looking at. Just because drawing isn't necessarily my strong point all the time, and I can lean on sort of other things that I can't necessarily lean on as easily with illustration.
Like the writing.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to call what I do writing.
Well, it's funny, so it works. I actually think of it in sitcom terms. Like, I think of myself as almost a sitcom director, and you could be like a 3-camera sitcom, or you could be a single camera. And if you're doing single camera, you can do all these sorts of interesting angles and shots and kind of lead the viewer emotionally a little bit more. And then 3-camera setup is kind of a little more generic, but just as effective if the writing can hold it up. So, Mike, I would actually say that yours is closer to a 3-camera setup. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what that means. Is that because I got perspectives? Because like I'm always changing like the angles and the backgrounds and such?
Sort of. I guess that kind of relies on some knowledge of like what camera setups are.
I know I like Friends. What's that?
Yeah, Friends is a 3-camera setup.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you have like a wide shot, you have a medium shot, and you have one extra camera to kind of do whatever with. And the single camera is a little more like a movie in that it's going to go all over the place. It'll go over people's shoulders. It'll look into people's souls if you need it to, you know, things like that.
What's that?
It's a little vague.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, the thing is, you have to be more consistent with comics than a lot of illustration. Because, like, I don't like this. I'm starting to realize how difficult comics are.
No, they're crazy. I think about every goddamn thing. I think about what people are going to see first. I think about what the dialogue looks like compositionally in the panel. Like, you really, every single panel that you make is an individual drawing that has to be good on its own. And then the whole thing has to work in all these different contexts and flow properly and all this stuff. It's incredibly complex, and that's what I like about it. And like you said, I can rely on my writing a little bit, like where my ability to draw fails me, I can make up for that with being kind of funny.
Well, all I'm saying is, now that I'm kind of thinking about this a little more, if I don't have a comic posted tomorrow, we know who to blame.
Sorry, Javier. You ruined Mike's career.
Yeah. Do you wanna move on? I got one more email if you guys want to read that really quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, this one's from Medina Kea, and it says, "To me, hello, dear. I need you to assist me in a claim of $6,200,000 USD. This claim is genuine and 100% risk-free, so we must remain fiducially in all our dealings, because I cannot achieve this opportunity alone without the support of a foreigner. And for your role in assisting me complete this claim, you will take 30% of the total sum. Kindly contact me back and indicate your interest with assurance of trust, so that I will give you the full details on how to carry out this claim. Best regards, Miss Medina."
What I like about this email...
I'm thinking this is a Wacom issue. Do you think this could be fixed with pressure sensitivity? Like,
Yeah, maybe reinstall the drivers.
yeah.
That seems to help when pressure sensitivity goes.
Medina, I think you might want to just delete all your Wacom drivers and just reinstall those things fresh. But when you install them, make sure the Wacom isn't plugged in.
Plug it in after the drivers get installed.
What?
Always plug it in after the drivers get installed.
Always. I did that with my big drawing on the screen thing. I plugged it in before I did the drivers, and I had to format my whole computer to get it to work.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Like, I had to redo everything.
A cautionary tale for Miss Kaya.
Yeah.
Miss
Get us together.
Medina, sorry.
So, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So, if anybody else has any emails, you can email us at heyinkpit@gmail.com. And also, we will probably not answer them next week, but maybe the week after, because we should have like a more structured discussion next week.
Oh,
we should do this
pretty
weekly.
good. I think we did a pretty
We
good
should
job.
do this weekly.
Yeah.
I think we did a great job.
I hope everyone agrees.
Good
Me too.
good first time, guys. Gold star.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
My self-esteem issues are showing.
I think what I'm going to do, my self-esteem is out of control.
You're feeling good?
I actually feel really good now. I kind of want to re-record an intro to this, but
I think we nailed it. We can re-record if we need to.
I think we nailed it. I think we woke up this morning, we got our hammers, and we nailed it. Yikes.
Great.
So, okay. So,
Thanks for listening. Right?
thank you.
Can we say thanks for listening?
We can if you want.
Anyone who hears this part will have listened to the whole thing through. So thank you for listening.
It's true. I was actually going to cut it off before, so now I'm just going to have silence, and then it'll be like 12 seconds of silence, and then it'll just be, thanks for listening.
All right. Perfect. This is great.
So, do you guys want to, just in case, re-record the beginning and intro so we can cut it in now that we're...
What is the intro?
Just like the, hey, this is the Ink Pit.
Yeah. Do it up.
I'm not going to be able to repeat myself.
I have no idea what we said.
Then how about just right now, I just say something. You know what? I'll do it later if I need to, in the editing bay.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So I think that was a good first episode, guys.
I agree. Can we all say goodbye at once? I always love that.
Wait, but what?
Yeah, we'll all say goodbye at once, and like we're waving to the camera. We'll wave to the camera.
On
Even
3?
though no one can see it, and we'll all say goodbye at once, and it'll be really nice and charming.
Are we supposed to say it in unison, or are we just going to all say, like, talk on each other and say goodbye?
Yeah, we're going to say it in unison. We're all going to say goodbye to each other.
I don't want to say in unison. I just want to say goodbye.
Oh, let's just say goodbye then.
Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. In unison. No. Okay, wait. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. Bye, you guys. Wait,
Bye,
no.
guys.
Bye. What?
Bye.
No
Just
one's,
at the beginning before the intro music.
no one's doing it.
I'm
All right,
nervous
fine.
now. Now I'm all freaked out again.
Okay,
right.
everyone say goodbye to the viewers.
But how are we saying it? Are we just like, bye, goodbye?
Yeah, let's say
Bye.
goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.
This is going right before the intro music.
All right, cool, great.
Bye.
Everyone, thank you for listening. I'm gonna hang up.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Bye.